Dharma message from Rinpoche Fujimoto.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're observing the first year memorial for the earthquake and tsunami victims, and it's a little late, but then because we had Girl Scout Sunday and then Ohigan last week and such, we're doing this. But I always try to point out that, this service, all memorial services, aren't for the sake of those that lost their lives, but it's their gift to us, right? It's their gift to us. And it's an opportunity for us to learn and encounter the Buddha Dharma, or the teachings. And this is, this is true for all of our memorial services and such. And it's an opportunity for us to learn, right? It's an opportunity for us to learn. We try to do this service as close to regular memorial service type situations as possible. And that's why we did the Busetsu Amida Kyo today. And I had a hard time today because, for just the opposite reason from most of you had a hard time. I had to try to slow myself down, and that threw me out of whack, because normally I would do that in about half the time that we did today. And the reason is because I don't want people to sit around too long and complain either. But, but there's a reason for doing the Busetsu Amida Kyo for memorial services for me. The teachings in there really do apply to many of the things that we can learn and we need to learn in the course of reflecting upon lives that are lost. And, for this service, I did some research looking at the efforts of the Honganji, our parent temple in Kyoto, Japan, to see what they did to help the people in the devastated area. And in looking at this, we can learn quite a bit. We can learn quite a bit. One of the things that those regulars here have heard me talk about frequently is that, when I went to Japan, one of the first things I was taught by my teachers is that why was not an acceptable question in Buddhism. And, the reason was one of my teachers got fed up with me asking why. And he said, it's not an acceptable question. And then, of course, the first thing I asked was, why? Right? And then, he just shook his head. But he went on to explain, in Buddhism, you don't question the reality. Why questions the reality? You accept first what's there. Okay? And then you can try to find out what caused those situations to try to address and see what you can do from there, right? And in looking at, the journal and blogs about the volunteer efforts by the Honganji, or through the Honganji, this is exactly what they did, right? First thing they did was they sent groups to the area to see and assess what the damage was and what areas that they could help. This is the first thing that they did. Then, the first day, immediately they sent people over. And then this is what they did for the first week or so. And then during that time, after making the initial assessments, they figured out where would be good sites to have distribution points. Then also during this time, they were getting food and supplies there, and then they had opened up soup kitchen type situations in areas that were accessible and you could handle this. And then, they provided shelter as well. So, we can see that they used a very Buddhistic approach to dealing with things. They accepted what happened, and they set up the things that they needed to take care of the immediate needs first. And then they sent in crews of volunteers to start the cleanup process. They have much to rebuild, but before you can rebuild, you have to clean up. You have to set things up to prepare. They went in to start building temporary housing, right? And then other crews went in to help in other ways as well. And some of the other ways that they use at first, seem kind of frivolous. But then when we really think about it, people's lives aren't just the physical aspect. There's a spiritual and social aspect as well. So they provided entertainment and a break from the tedium of cleaning up and try to get as much involvement as possible. Instead of just performing for them, they tried to get them to take part as well, to help bring back a sense of normalcy. And then they, as the year went on and such, they tried to have Obon celebrations, Bonodori. They had to have New Year's celebrations. And then just recently they, encouraged and had Hinamatsuri type, Girls' Day celebrations as well. Now, and then after all of this initial work was done with the groups, that they started partnering with groups that have the special skills needed to reclaim the land so that it can be farmed again. Not only do you have to provide shelter, but you have to provide means to, create your livelihood again. So they partnered with groups that, that had the skills needed to reclaim the land so that it can be farmed again. We don't think about this too much here, but we have to remember that the tsunami brought in salt seawater over all the fields and such. So that soaked into the soil and it made it much less than ideal for growing the rice and other crops that the area is famous for. So, they had to try to desalinate the soil and such. And one of the things that our mother temple did, the Honganji did early on, and this is something that we associate with the temples, was to perform funerals for those who had passed away in this tragedy. In total in the area there were about 30,000 people that passed away. And the area is not predominantly Jodo Shinshu, but there are still quite a few. So throughout Japan, ministers volunteered to go and help take care of the funerals. Some of you may remember Reverend Torimi, who was here for a while before he was assigned to Placer and then the LA, and then he went back to Nara. But he was one of those who volunteered to go over there. And, they were doing mass services all the time. Just as an aside, it's not really that important. But of 30,000 people, I figured out roughly how long it would take Reverend Sakamoto and myself on the, if we calculate by the average number of services we do each year, funeral services that we do each year, it would take us about 135 years to take care of 30,000 services, right? And I don't think we could last that long. But, the numbers seems great, but at the same time, and it is tragic, but at the same time, when you really think about it, 30,000 people a year is what Japan loses due to suicides. So it's not just the numbers that make this event tragic. It's the fact that it happened so suddenly and needed to be addressed under such adverse conditions that made it difficult. It's not just the numbers. The numbers are big, but when we think about it, the number of people that commit suicide in Japan every year is about the same amount of people. And here in the United States, the number of people who commit suicide is even greater than that number. So it's not the numbers of the loss, but the adverse conditions and that fact that it needed to be attended to so quickly and at one time. And all of these steps were necessary to get back to a sense of normalcy. And then, though things are still a far cry from normal, people are rebuilding their lives. And this brought to me, it made it clear to me that, this is really what we're doing with these one-year services, the first-year services and such. You never get back to what was, with the loss of anybody in your life. But this first-year service helps you look back and see that steps have been taken to find a new balance, to build towards a normalcy. And even though quite a bit has been done, there's still quite a bit more to do. This happens to us in our personal lives when we lose somebody close to. That, as I always point out, you never get over the loss of somebody close to you. But you do have to find a new balance in that life. And in the course of a year, you do build a lot of steps, do get a lot accomplished to grow towards that normalcy.
to find a new balance. But there's still a lot more to do. There's still a lot more to do. And this is the case here too. And one of the reasons that I, like to chant the Bussetsamida Kyo for memorial services and such is the fact that there's one section in there that talks about Kue Isho, which means when you truly meet somebody, you'll always be together with them. And this kind of points out how important that social interaction, that building in the course of rebuilding a life can be. Right? You need to meet people. You need to socialize. You need to truly encounter and share your life with people. And one of the most popular and successful projects implemented by some of the Honganji volunteers is a very simple one. They've implemented tea parties or sessions where people would gather at temples or in the temporary housing areas just to drink tea and chat. Just to drink tea and chat. They're able to share experiences and such if they so desire, but they're giving an outlet to do so. This has become very popular and they started popping up all over the place. Just sharing their common experience seems to help them. And this is something that we need to remember as well. Because we have these opportunities to run into each other and talk to each other all the time, we take it for granted. But they're very important to be able to sit and share and meet is something very important for a human being. And these people have come to enjoy and appreciate this. They may have not thought that it was very important before the tsunami and earthquake, but they come to rediscover the importance of this. And this shows us another area that we take for granted, that we just assume things that we have will always be there, but there's no guarantee that will happen. The simple, overlooked things in our lives can come to be appreciated in the light of such tragedy as the earthquake and tsunami. If we can find meaning and growth here too, in our lives, is it really such a tragedy? Or is it really more a matter of transforming the rubble in our lives to gold that Shinan often talked about? That it is, we all have good experiences. We all have bad experiences. But if we can turn or have our experiences grow and change so that the bad experiences become tools with which we can improve ourselves, improve our lives, to come and see more of what is important in the course of life. Is it really such a tragedy? Yes, the loss of lives, the loss of property, the loss of money, all of these things is tragic for them. But to make it less of a tragedy, if we can make it an opportunity to learn and to grow, and to make our lives better, is it as bad as all that? And can we change it to make it something better for each and every one of us? This is something that we all need to ponder. We need to reflect upon and use as a tool to step forward. Thank you.